Okay, let's dive in. What if this universe, the one you experience every day, isn't the only one?
Hmm.
What if it's just like one tiny piece of something way, way bigger?
And what if the thing connecting all those pieces is consciousness itself?
Exactly.
Ah,
That's where we're headed today, right?
That's absolutely the core idea. We're looking at this framework. We're calling it the multiverse time loop. It's really this fascinating intersection trying to bring together cutting edge physics, cosmology, and these really deep thoughts about awareness.
Right. So the mission for this deep dive, as I see it, is to really get into this multiverse time loop idea. We've got these sources that, frankly, challenge how we normally think about
I
reality.
definitely do.
We need to unpack the science bits, but also the philosophical side. It feels like connecting dots that maybe haven't been connected this way before.
Precisely. And the scientific foundation here, it rests on some pretty big, almost revolutionary ideas. First up is the multiverse hypothesis itself.
The idea that our universe isn't alone.
Exactly. It's not just a wild guess. It gets real support from theories like eternal inflation. Alan Guth proposed this way back in 1980.
Okay.
The picture isn't one single Big Bang, but potentially like an ongoing process. Imagine cosmic expansions constantly happening, each one maybe creating its own universe, its own bubble.
Like a pot of boiling water with bubbles forming all the time.
That's a great analogy, yeah. Except these bubbles are entire universes.
Wow. Okay, so our whole known cosmos could just be one bubble.
Yeah.
This huge cosmic froth or something.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's mind-bending already.
And it gets layered. Then we bring in the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics.
Ah, Hugh Everett. 1957, wasn't it?
That's the one. Now, quantum mechanics, that's the science of the super small atoms, particles,
Hmm.
where things are kind of fuzzy until you measure them.
Right, the measurement problem.
Well, many worlds offers a radical answer. Instead of reality choosing one outcome when a quantum event
Wait, you
happens.
mean like whether an electron goes left or right?
Exactly that kind of thing. Instead of it choosing left or right, many worlds says it does both
Both.
by
Yeah.
splitting the universe.
Yeah.
In one universe, it goes left. In another brand new universe, it goes right. Every quantum event, every possibility plays out in its own reality.
So reality is constantly forking, branching off into countless different versions based on these tiny quantum events.
That's the core idea. Continuous branching.
Yeah.
An unimaginable number of parallel universes spawning constantly.
Okay, so you combine eternal inflation, potentially infinite bubble universes, with many worlds constant splitting within universes.
And you get a picture of a multiverse that's just unbelievably vast and dynamic. It's staggering.
It really is. But the framework we're exploring, this multiverse time loop, it adds another layer, doesn't it? Something even more fundamental.
It does, and this is where consciousness comes in, which, science usually sees as something that just happens in brains, an emergent property.
Yeah, complex enough brain, boom, consciousness.
But these sources, they flip that script. They propose that consciousness might not be the result of reality, but maybe the source,
Yeah.
or at least a fundamental component of reality.
Okay, hold on. Like Max Planck, didn't he say something like that?
He did, famously.
Yeah.
I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. That's a huge shift in perspective.
Huge is an understatement. So it's not just in our heads, it's potentially everywhere, woven into the fabric of everything.
That's the radical suggestion. If consciousness is fundamental, it might not be limited to biology. It could be inherent to the cosmos, maybe even the thread connecting all these multiverse threads we talked about.
So not universe creating consciousness, but maybe consciousness being the ground floor, the stage upon which the multiverse plays out.
That's one way to think about it, yeah. And this framework suggests it's not just a passive background. It implies a kind of universal or collective consciousness.
A collective consciousness
Hmm.
across all universes.
Potentially. One that's not just watching, but is somehow participating, maybe even learning or evolving through all these different realities, all these branching timelines.
Wow. Okay, so all those separate threads, the bubbles, the branches, they're actually part of one single conscious tapestry.
That's the picture it paints.
Yeah.
A vast, interconnected, conscious whole.
And then there's the time loop part of the name. We usually think of time as, a straight line. Past, present, future, arrow of time.
Right, the standard linear model.
Yeah.
But some cosmological ideas are challenging that. Take Roger Penrose and his conformal cyclic cosmology.
CCC, yeah. The idea that the universe goes through cycles.
Exactly. Endless cycles.
Yeah.
The very, very distant future, the heat death of one universe, somehow becomes the Big Bang in the next one. A cycle.
Okay, I'm with you.
The multiverse time loop framework kind of runs with that cyclical idea, but maybe on an even grander scale.
Yeah.
It suggests the entire multiverse, with all its timelines, might eventually fold back on itself,
Right.
recur.
Fold back. But is it just like hitting repeat on a cosmic VCR? Or is there something more? The sources mention integration.
Ah, good point. No, it's not just a simple reset. The idea is more like evolution through recurrence.
Evolution. How?
Each cycle, each loop isn't identical. The universal consciousness, perhaps, carries forward insights, experiences, information from the previous loop into the next. It learns. It grows.
So the universe or this consciousness gets smarter or more complex with each cycle, even if the physical stuff starts over in some way.
That's the implication. Cosmic evolution through repetition and integration. Not linear progress, but a deepening, perhaps, within the cycle.
Okay. This
Yeah.
is massive implications for us, for individuals. If consciousness is fundamental and the multiverse is this vast, looping, branching thing,
Yeah.
what about, like, death? What about who I am?
Well, yeah, that's where it gets incredibly personal. This framework really opens the door to thinking differently about mortality. If your core consciousness, your fundamental awareness, is part of this larger universal consciousness, which is fundamental and perhaps eternal,
Then maybe physical death isn't the absolute end.
it might be more like a transition, a shift in focus for that consciousness, moving from experiencing this reality thread to another one within the giant web.
So this life, this experience right now is just one perspective, one viewpoint taken by this much larger awareness.
That's the possibility it presents. Each life, each universe explored, adds to the data set, so to speak, of this overarching consciousness.
So that you listening right now isn't just this person in this body in this moment.
You might be a facet, a unique expression of a consciousness that has experienced and is experiencing countless other lives across countless other realities, potentially an infinite number.
Identity becomes fluid then, cosmic almost, not just locked into this one biography.
Much more fluid, much faster. We could be temporary embodiments, temporary viewpoints for this grander cosmic awareness that's constantly exploring itself and its creation.
Okay, if that's the case, then the question becomes, why? What's the point of all this? This endless experiencing, looping, branch.
Yeah, the purpose question. And the framework suggests something quite profound there, I think.
Which is?
That maybe the purpose is the experiencing itself, the whole journey, exploring the absolute full range of what it means to exist in all possible ways.
So it's not about reaching some final destination.
Perhaps not. Perhaps it's about contributing your unique thread of experience to the richness of the whole tapestry, this universal consciousness. And through that, participating in its growth, its understanding, its awakening.
Awakening to the beauty of it all, the wonder of just being.
Exactly. A continuous awakening across all realities, all loops. Conscious exploration on the most immense scale imaginable.
Right. So let's try and pull this all together. We have this picture of a multiverse, maybe infinite, constantly splitting into new possibilities thanks to quantum mechanics, maybe bubbling up new universes through eternal inflation.
All interconnected, fundamentally, by a universal consciousness.
Which is itself maybe eternal, learning and evolving through these huge cosmic cycles, these time loops.
That's the essence of the multiverse time loop framework, yes. And your consciousness, the listener's awareness right now, isn't separate from that. It's part of it.
An integral part, learning, expanding right alongside the whole cosmic structure.
Which reframes death not as an end, but maybe just a shift in perspective, a transition within this infinite landscape.
And identity becomes something far bigger, more connected than just our individual lives.
It really does shift your perspective on, well, everything, instead of feeling like a tiny, isolated speck in a cold universe.
You're part of a conscious, evolving cosmos, a system that's constantly renewing itself creatively.
Exactly. And the meaning of it all might simply be found in embracing that experience, contributing to the consciousness, and just waking up to the incredible reality of being.
It's a lot to take in. It reminds me of that quote from the source material, something like, "You are not in the universe."
You are the universe, unfolding and awakening forever.
Maybe that's the real depth dive then. Not just understanding the cosmos out there, but realizing the cosmos that's in here, inside consciousness itself.
In its infinite looping, ever-awakening dance. A profound thought to sit with.